if you've been on the podcast before, then I am a new face because I started working for Renee about 6 months ago. Welcome.
We just celebrated 6-month anniversary.
We did.
Didn't we?
I know. Crazy how time flies.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That's when we were building out. He met me building out the rehearsal space.
Yeah.
For the band.
And coincidentally, it's funny. I was listening to your last podcast, which was again back in September. That's clearly when everything stopped. That's when everything stopped. That's okay. But you were talking about a new space then, but it didn't sound like it was this space. Were you guys? Did you guys have another space you were working out of? Because you were talking about getting out of your house and having a different space. Was that something else that has shifted since we built this?
So at the time, I think that I was looking for a space.
Gotcha.
Because we were rehearsing, and don't get me wrong, the living room's nice. We cleared out all the furniture, set everything up. Just a lot of work.
Yeah.
And as busy as I stay with the many hats we all wear, it just was going to be profitable to have a place that at least I could leave my stuff, and then worked out that my drummer, you know, as much as it takes to set that kid up every time. Any drummers out there you can identify, it takes a lot of work. So having a space where that was just stationary, you know, so we could come in, rehearse, walk out the door, that was on the radar. I don't think at that point in September, because I didn't sign the lease for this place until
it wouldn't have been until the end of October,
that I knew what that looked like. I just knew that was the goal.
So for anyone that doesn't know, you actually have a studio space now that also doubles as your office.
Yes. The joke is it's business in the front, party in the back. So I opened an office for the real estate company that I work for, and we only need about 800 of the 1,500 square feet. So the back was going to be the back became storage for stuff.
Right.
And then also storage for our music.
So then you're able to rehearse, but then you also been doing shows.
So it turned out, you know, we did a broker open for the office, and then I was able to hire the band to come and play for the open. And then also, you know, it had such a great response that people, like, I just got asked like a week ago when my next show was.
Which I think we were planning for this month, but I don't think that's going to happen.
It's actually going to be June 11th.
Okay, I was going to say.
Yeah, June 11th.
It's just been crazy.
Too much. So, and at the end of the month is the long weekend. So to fit it in this month was going to just be too much for everybody. So yeah, we're going to do June 11th. But yeah, like it's been really cool having people ask when you're doing the next show in your office.
Which is so cool. I love that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's all good.
You've been writing a lot of songs.
Wow.
Like
Thank you, John McLucas, if you listen to this.
Wearing a lot of hats, but you've been juggling real estate and music, but you've been very driven with the music side.
So I got a call from John, I want to say it was January, my producer, John McLucas. We met, the other podcast would have told you this, we did meet in Los Angeles. I went to Los Angeles to a convention and met another artist who I was telling her I was bummed that I lost a producer I had at that time. And I was looking for another one, and she said, I think I have your answer. And she slid me this note. It was really, I meant to ask her, Jennifer, if you're ever watching this. She slid me a note, said, call me when you land on the East Coast. I have a producer. And I remember on the plane holding this note going, why did I have to wait? So anyway, I thought it was really fun and mysterious. So I was like, okay, like hold my note. I land in the East Coast and I'm like, who is it? You know? So John and I had like an intro, and I sent him a song that Fred and I had tried to produce in my house over the span of months. And clearly neither of us had that skill set yet. So it was amateur to say the least. So, but he took it, sent me 30 seconds back, and it was like, John was in my brain. Like, it's like he knew what I was hearing that I didn't have the skill set to, you know, digitally put together. So I said, yes, let's do this. We formed a relationship, and that fall, we started working together, but then the pandemic hit, which freed up time for everybody.
Right.
And that's when we started really writing in 2020. And then 2021 was the 66 Closes in Real Estate. So all I did last year was make a Christmas album, which required a whole lot less writing, just like singing. And then this year, he called me in January, said, hey, I'm hitting the road. And he'd been here the one time when you met him. Yeah. He'd come to set up our tour rig for the band. And he said, hey, I'll roll through Lynchburg again and spend 10 days. He said, but he goes, he knew how busy I was. He's like, but Renee, do you have time to write 10 songs? And I'm like, And I didn't have that answer because how can I predict what it's going to look like in March when we're in January? And I said, I have a question. If I don't, can we like work on it past you coming? And I mean, there's a little bit of trust, I think, on both sides there, just knowing the variables that neither of us controlled. And so I committed to 10 songs, and Chad will attest. He showed up in town, I'm like, oh my gosh.
I have to write 10 songs.
And there's oh, and also, I still have to keep my multi-million-dollar business running.
So it was actually such an incredible, what was so cool is that I learned how to create under pressure. So in the past, creation was this thing like, I lit candles in my house and I cleared off half a day and like I got into this zone, and you know, it was this huge process to write one song, right? So now John and I had, because of how busy I was, usually I would write the song to send to him to put the production to. This case, he sent me kind of a scratch production and said, hey, use this as your start so I'm not having to come up with everything from scratch. And then you're responsible for the melody and the lyrics, right? So it took a step of it out for me. But that was also difficult because that's not my process.
Right.
Like my process is, I write the melody, you add, like not you write here's all the instrumentation, you do the melody. It was like, so, you know, learning a whole new process and then having it happen in a span of 10 days. So it turned into me working the real estate from 8 a.m. to like 2 p.m. and then having to like run into the studio and literally like it changed from lighting candles and laying on the floor looking at my tall ceilings like writing a song to like, all right, it's 2:15 and me in the studio like with the headset on and playing the track and then just like plucking melody lines and like trying verses, singing lines to words while it was a whole different approach, but it showed me that like I can do it.
Yeah.
I could do it. So we did. Now, did we finish 10 songs? That's a no. But I wrote 7.
Yeah, you did well.
In 10 days. 7 original lyrics and 7 melody lines. And I don't like to write. Anyone who's ever had to work with me, and thankfully most people haven't. That sounds bad. I'm really not that difficult to work with. It's just I'm a perfectionist, recovering perfectionist. So I don't write a melody line to write a melody line. Like, I want the melody line to be so amazing. Like, I want it to be one that the next day I can't get out of my head. Like, that to me, that's a good melody line. Like, if I write it the night before and I'm still singing it the next day, then there's something catchy about it.
Yeah,
and I want it to be catchy.
Yeah. And
I want the words to be great. Like, I want them to be I want them to catch someone. I want them to, so wanting all these really big things to happen in such a short amount of time. It's just, whew.
It's a lot.
My trip to Manhattan was just watch it out for me. But yeah, so we ended up with a brief. So for those of you who don't know, a brief is television or film or commercials are searching for a song, and often it's a replacement. Like, hey, we really want this song by said famous artist who wants multi-million dollars to use it. Could you do something like it? I love those briefs. If it's in my musical wheelhouse, that is my favorite. Give me something that you want to have a similar feel, and then I can write. That's fun for me. So a brief rolled across shortly after John left, and we had this one that was hanging in the air because he'd kind of gone in this Pharrell direction, and you gotta know your musical limits.
Yeah.
I am not a hip hop. That's not my space. So we did not do that song. And that kind of left this hole, okay, do you want to start the song, Renee, or do you want to do, and we had an idea about where we were going to go, but then this brief came across that is just way in the pocket for John and I. I love to write dark, this happy peppy thing is new for me. I'm really more in dark minor space, and it was this dark minor space song for a vampire type TV show. And I was like, oh yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Amen.
I sat down on a Sunday night and I scratched out the 3 minutes, A, B, A, B, C, and then sent it to John. He started to fill it in, and then it just gets really. That's the process I love. I didn't dislike this other process.
Right.
I didn't. It just was so new to me and so fast. Like cranking out music. I actually had someone, and it's probably very true. Like an artist who gets signed by a label will get signed on an album that they wrote years prior, right? Like you've had time to just invest in this music and soak in this music, and then all of a sudden you get signed by a label and you're on tour, and the label's going, hey, we want your next album, and you're busy doing this interview and on this tour and on this bus and travel, and somewhere in the middle of it all you're supposed to write a whole nother banging album. And I think that's why so many people are so hard on the sophomore album for artists, because that sophomore album was probably written under extreme duress.
Right, yeah.
And so they're like super hard on them, and like, I think if you knew how,
that process was.
Yes. So I think I got a good little taste of what that could look like, when the first album would get signed. And then the good news is this is the second album, so the sophomore's done.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we have time to work towards the third, so yeah.
Well, and not all singers write. Why is that so important to you?
Do they not?
No, well, because a lot of singers will have other people write songs for them. So you'll still know them as that song, but it was not written by them. So the fact that you sing and write is pretty awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I think, did not all singers at one point write? Okay, no. All right, let me rewind. So the bands, the boy bands and all that, they didn't write. They were literally a created thing.
Yes. And someone wrote their songs for them.
Did the Sarah McLachlan's write, and the Sarah Bareilles Ellis's, and did they not all write? Katy Perry, didn't she write? But then she didn't write them all.
Right.
And then did she not write them all because they knew the sophomore album was going to be too difficult for her to write? See, this is where I'm going with
right.
this. I'm
yeah. So you just don't know.
I felt the stress of producing in a tight schedule and but the stress of making it good.
Yeah.
You can write anything in a minute. Anything.
Yeah.
I could put a little ditty together for you right now. Is it good? Probably not.
But it's important to you too, right? Though, what's
okay? I know where you're going with this. So
what's your
why do I
inspiration
write?
for that? Yeah, why is it important to tell a story?
Yeah. Well, okay. So the thing that draws you to a song, I think, is what the song is saying, and then the emotion behind it. And so for me, when I write from a very real space. So, for example, we had a brief come across for a love song, and I was in the middle of a divorce. Those two things. but the reference track for the love song was right in the pocket. I was like, this is our sonic space. I just don't have any emotional framework to write a love song.
Right.
And so this is where I realized the breadth of my ability of writing. So for me, it's an emotional release. Writing, it's therapy for me. All writing.
Yeah.
But there's something I love about crafting a lyric, very specifically a lyric. You could take, let me finish the story, I'll explain. So I knew it had to be a love song, and I knew my producer John well enough now to know that he had a girlfriend of quite a long time who literally would sleep on floors with him because he was a struggling starting producer with no money. They didn't even have a bed, or a bedroom. I think they slept on the floor of their studio for an amount of time. Really cute stuff that movies are made of, right? And I'm so when the love thing came across, and I'm I had nothing I had no experience to draw from. I messaged him, I said, could you do me a favor? I said, send me a couple of sounds, record how you and Michelle met. I started, how did you meet? And it's somewhere in our messages where I think he left 3 60-seconds because Facebook Messenger will only let you do 60 at a time. So it's 3 60-second messages, and he's telling me how they met very quickly. And he was at a club, and he was with his friend, she was with hers, and he looked across the room and saw her, and she saw him, and then he went over to talk to her, and they ended up, that talking ended up being talking till the wee hours of the morning when they finally left the club or in a car looking at the Hollywood Hills or something along those lines, right? But just this very simple but very sweet love story.
And so I listened to that, and I at one time was told I would have been a very good psychologist because I have a skill set that you can't teach, and I was never told what that skill set was. But I think it has something to do with the fact that I have a strong empathy to, like, I can literally feel what someone else feels. Like, if you're telling me about your life or you're telling me a story, like, I don't hear you telling it, I actually feel it. Yeah. So I was able to translate that ability where I put myself into that story. Like, I was them meeting that night, and then I channeled that feeling into that song. And that's how, like, if you listen to that song, I sing it like it's my story, but it's John's. So, but I think the difference is I love to do that. Like, I say I love people, and I love people's stories, and I love being able to, I love telling stories and then finding a way to tell. See, the thing about lyrics is the lyrics are concise. So lyrics, a story, a novelist is going to use all these elaborate phrases, and it's going to go on because you got to fill like some 400 pages, right? Lyrics to a song need to be concise, and they need to be smart, and they need to be crafty, and you need to be able to tell the story quickly and effectively. And I love that challenge. And I love words, and I love what you can do to manipulate words, and I love how you can, you know. So this last album, I went on a little bit more of a general word journey. Like, it wasn't so crafted. Like, there's songs in my past that were literal stories. Like, you listen, there's not even that far in the past. We did record Torn in Two. Yeah. And it's a story, like, John literally, John got finished producing and he calls up and he's like, so who's the guy? And why did the girl show up? Like, he wanted to know the rest of the story. Like, there was enough of a story there where he's like, hey, I need you to fill in the details. Why did the girl show up? Where'd you come from? Like, yeah. So, like, sometimes it's a story, and then sometimes it's more of a lyrical feeling. Like, you're really generalizing the emotion. So it's more of a sweeping feeling versus like a very specific story. So I don't know if that. And you
can that's no, because I can feel that every time I hear your songs. Like I feel that there's so much behind it. It's not just something that was just thrown out. Like, there's feeling and passion.
So a journey I've never taken. Like, I wonder if I could do that with someone else's words. So you see, like, you ask why I write.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you sing with the energy you sing with, because they're your words, it's your story, or it's a story you've adapted. So I'm wondering, like, could I sing with the same energy somebody else's words? I haven't tried that yet.
Interesting.
Yeah, I haven't tried that yet.
True.
So, because that's what those artists are doing, I suppose. Like, Katy Perry would have maybe written a couple songs, and then now she's singing other people's stuff. So what's her process? Like, does she get the song and then, like, create a story for herself so she feels that? Like, these are all really interesting.
I would imagine that would be kind of like being an actor. Like, you kind of have to get into character. So I would imagine in that sense.
Well, I guess that's what I did with John's. So, I took on the character of his love story. Yeah. You know, even though the protagonist, he's a guy, I'm a girl, it's still, you know, I just assumed his space in that moment.
Right.
And then wrote from that space. So. Yeah. Because, I had no frame of reference for that.
Right.
Turns out it's actually like one of the greatest songs I've ever written.
It's a good song. It really is.
It's the one when we go to rehearse. It's like, so what do you want to start with? I'm like, we're all like, here to stay. We all go there. Because, like, melodically, too, it's just such, it's song. So great. Yeah, it's so great.
So, the last episode you talked about finally having a sync agent.
Yeah, is that when I met Mark?
Yeah. So that's when that all started, and then it was obviously this wondering, is the label here? Are we ready? Is it up? Can we talk about this?
Can we yet?
Can we say this yet? Or is it still in process?
Still in process.
Yeah.
I'm also one of those people where you don't want to say so much that you, like, not that I really, like, I don't know, but you don't want to jinx it. Like, the same, you know, until things are inked, I think there needs to be an element of mystery until it's like, so when I mentioned the sync agent, it's because we'd actually signed. Like, he said, yes, I will be your agent. So, in fact, he will be pitching the one that we're finishing about the vampire one.
Oh, nice.
He'll be pitching that for me. So, and that would be his first pitch. That's our first little, so we'll see.
That's
I love
amazing.
Mark.
Yes.
Mark.
I've not met Mark yet.
He needs to come visit.
No.
Who is Mark?
I was planning to, but never.
Just so you know, that's how that always goes.
That's how that goes.
We will be going to Nashville together, Mark and I think.
That's coming up.
Yeah, it's
not
a
too
sync
far
conference
away.
in July.
So
yeah. So yeah, the label. We went to Manhattan. I went to Manhattan with the producers time and met with the one label who we are on, but the bigger one that we can't talk about is just like
still in the process.
Almost there.
Almost
Yeah, it's
there.
just it's up. So you gotta wait. Tune in.
Yeah.
Tune in.
It'll be coming.
For like so many exciting things.
Well, I've been hearing a lot about touring coming back. Obviously, we're in this COVID world. Touring kind of halted for everybody.
And it's reviving now because of outdoor season.
Yeah, and so now it's like summertime is coming, touring is becoming a thing again.
My question was, would we, when this is inked, tour in 2023 then? And the answer was hopefully sooner. So I can say that.
Okay.
I was thinking logistically it would have to be that long, but again, I'm not as versed in the logistics of running the tour.
Have you been to a show since COVID was out? Like what do shows look like?
Wait,
in this
didn't I go?
current
Wait,
point?
hold on. Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
I went to Broadway.
Oh, that's right, you did go to Broadway.
Saw Hugh Jackman.
Okay,
I wouldn't
yeah.
call that like a concert, but I saw
Right.
Hugh Jackman, which was amazing. I mean, it's different. Like indoors in New York, you know, it's get your mask. Like it's still that careful, protective thing.
Yeah.
Where like I always think about going to shows and being this very free, like there's this like energetic exchange that I feel like somehow isn't quite the same when all this is happening. So that was Broadway, but I feel like I saw a show.
I want to go back to one.
Okay. All right.
I have seen one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did Melissa Etheridge last summer.
Oh, that's right, you did.
I went to see Melissa in August last summer. Melissa Etheridge for my birthday. Saw Melissa Etheridge.
And that was outside or inside?
Outside.
Okay. It was fabulous.
Outside. It was just. There's just something so magical about shows.
Yeah.
Really excited to get.
Would you prefer an outdoor show or an indoor show?
Depends on the
when you
weather.
tour. Say the weather is nice.
Weather's nice, outdoors great.
Okay.
There's some beautiful amphitheaters I'd play in a minute. There's one outside DC that I saw Josh Groban in. Was that in Josh Groban? Oh, it was amazing. No, it was pre-pandemic, I think, because there were no masks. And it was so hot. I saw it with my friend Kara. You know Kara.
Yeah.
Saw it with her, and it was so hot. He had like fans going on him. And what I love about him as a performer is I think he and I would perform very similarly. Like there isn't that like tight, like it's like you're in his living room when he performs. Like he talks to you like you're literally up there with him and there's thousands of people, you know, and he's just like.
I feel that's how it is here. Whenever you were performing in the back, I feel you
that
have
was like a living room.
It definitely was more like
that
a
is
living
literally
room.
like I'm in spitting distance of everybody. Yeah. No, but that's how I would perform. That's how I have performed on bigger stages. Obviously, like in that amphitheater environment, he could see us. I think there'd be a difference if you can't see the audience, you know, in an indoor arena or distance. Like you think about the major players like the Patriot Center, where I saw Foo Fighters once, and then I saw U2. Where were they? Was it Patriot? Either way, U2. Like there's so much distance between you and the artists. Getting that personal would feel out of space maybe for the people in the rafters, but I think I'd still maintain like a bit like that down to earth, like we're all human here. It's hot. I'm hot. I'm so hot.
This is rough.
Yeah. Wait, I think he said if I could, I'd turn these water fans and at you guys, and I was like, please. It was so hot. So hot. Yeah.
Yeah. For kicks, if you could sing with one person, who would you sing with?
That was so funny. Okay, so I'll flip it. I got asked who I want to tour with.
Yeah.
Right? And I assumed like if you were touring with someone, you had that possibility of singing with them. Bono! I like you like this. I said, does U2 still tour?
Yes, they do.
Do they still tour? Because that would be a bucket lister for me.
Yeah.
Like, and the thing is, I got compared kind of to like a Florence and the Machine. She's been around quite a while now, but like at the time when my first U2 show, because I've tried for years to see them, and I finally did see them up in, it was in Charlottesville, that I saw them, and it was, I remember Florence and the Machine was opening, and we're like, who? Well, okay, but we're like, who?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And it's so funny because it was not even half the place was filled when she took the stage. But she played like she was playing to like a full stadium, and at her dog days for the first time, and like no one, you wouldn't know who she was,
No.
and she just, you know, I think of that and I'm like, that would be the dream. Like,
okay, but that's opening.
no, but I would be opening.
No, but I'm saying, who would you sing with?
Well, no, but then my
So,
hope would be to like,
would
okay,
you-
because like I
would
could
you,
list
like,
like
duet?
20,000. Yeah.
Okay, that's what
There
I'm
was
asking.
like YouTube. I have covered some of his stuff where I'd be like, can we just
That would be
jam on this? Like,
Alright.
I've taken your songs and flipped them. Can I start? And you come on out and finish.
No, I love that.
He's one. I mean, there's so many people that would just be a ridiculous honor to like do that with. But yeah, he would like whenever I'm thinking of him because we're talking about tour. He would jump up with the I would open with the like, can we sing?
Can we just do one? Just one together. I love that.
Yeah,
All right. Well, looks like a lot of things are on the horizon.
it's exciting.
Super excited to see what's coming
Super
next.
So exciting. You'll have to stay tuned because this will be like the chronicles, right?
That's right.
Like you'll go back and be like, oh, what was how did this happen? Oh,
Right.
just go back and listen to the podcast.
Exactly. All right. Well, that's all we got for today.
Cool. Well, we'll
Yeah.
be back again next week with more exciting details.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
I can feel it here, moving all around. I cannot be changed. It's in my blood. Just close your eyes, feel the sound surround, coming from within. No, it's in my blood now. I'll take a night, one night to play. I'll take a life, one life to change. I'll take a dream and make it stay. No, I won't begin to feel it waited all my life for the time to come. I am standing here because I had no fear. I'll take a night, one night to play. I'll take a life, one life to change. I'll take a dream and make it stay. No, I won't begin to feel it now. Feel